Lisa cycles to work. This travel graph shows information about her journey to work on Tuesday. So we've got distance along the left-hand side and we've got time along the bottom, and there's a line. So we understand that if I look at 10 minutes, that means I can cover, 1.4 or 1.5 miles in 10 minutes roughly. Or if I look at 20 minutes, I can cover 3 miles in 20 minutes. So that's a good one because it's an exact number there, that one. So that's kind of what the graph is. Okay, I understood how to use the graph. All right, I'll move on. Martin also cycles to work. And on Tuesday, his average speed was 16 kilometers per hour. Now we know that when we have two measures written like this, kilometers an hour, we can write it using multiplicative reasoning. So this is for Martin. Okay, so I'll just make a note here, Martin, and I'll write down here 16 kilometers is equal to 1 hour. Who has the greater average speed? Now, Martin's one is already written as a speed, but Lisa's one is not. So perhaps what I need to do is work with Lisa's. But Lisa's one's a graph. So how do I use the graph? Well, look at that point that I found. That point shows that 20 minutes is equal to 3 miles. So I can actually write that down. 20 minutes or 3 miles is equal to 20 minutes. Okay, so that's going to be useful. So then I need to figure out how I get this into speed. Now speed, remember, is how much someone travels in 1 hour. So I need to get to 60 minutes. So 60 minutes times by 3 times by 3. So now I have 9 miles. So I know 9 miles is equal to 60 minutes. And on the other one, it was 16 kilometers is equal to 1 hour. So we've got a bit of a dilemma here. We've got different units. We've got something in kilometers and something else in miles. So this is where you need to actually be able to recall a measure which is not given to you. You need to understand and remember that 5 miles is equal to 8 kilometers. So that's something that you need to use. And again, this is, as you can see, in a multiplicative reasoning format. So using this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change maybe this miles into kilometers. Or I could have changed the kilometers into miles as well. It doesn't matter. Actually, the kilometers probably make sense to use because I can see I've got 8 kilometers here. And if I write down 16 kilometers here from there, I can then figure out that it's actually quite an easy thing to do. Times by 2 times by 2. So this is the same as 10 miles. So then I can say Martin actually travels 10 miles in 1 hour. And Lisa travels 9 miles in 60 minutes or 1 hour. So Lisa's speed is 9 miles per hour and Martin's speed is 10 miles per hour. So now I found out both of their speeds in the same units, miles, not a mixture of miles or kilometers, but both in miles, all using multiplicative reasoning a few times. Who has the greater average speed? We need to answer the question Martin has. Okay, so it gives us here, you can use the conversion graph to change between miles and kilometers. We can see that there's miles on one axis and kilometers on the axis. How do we use it? Well, if you read up from, let's say, 40, what's a nice one to use here? 40 seems quite nice. If I got there, from 40 kilometers, it's exactly the same as 25 miles. 40 kilometers is equal to 25 miles. I can see that there. Okay. So can we do that? Yeah, I can actually use that point and write down 40 kilometers is equal to 25 miles. It's quite useful to use, maybe. Okay, so I've written that down for that one point. It could have done any point. It doesn't really matter because any point I can go from here to then use multiplicative reasoning. Okay, so then it goes on to say Mary has to drive from Paris to Calais and then from Dover to Sheffield. The total distance she has to drive is 350 miles. So we've got Paris to Calais and then from Dover to Sheffield. Set up a little line diagram to indicate that. The total distance is 350, so that's the total of all of that. That distance is 350. So I've represented it in a nice kind of diagram. And then I go on to read Mary has already driven 240 kilometers from Paris to the ferry at Calais. So 240 kilometers is here. And then she goes on a ferry to Dover, and she now has to drive from Dover to Sheffield. So if this is 240 kilometers, what's the rest of it? Well, we have it in miles, not in kilometers. So what we need to do here is get them to the same units to figure out what the rest is. So I'm going to work out what the total distance, 350 miles, is in kilometers. How could I do that? Well, I can go back to this here that I've got my multiplicative reasoning, and I can use that. So I'm going to write down 350 miles in the appropriate section. Here we go, 350 miles. How do I go from 25 to 350 miles? Okay, so that's what we need to figure out here. And if you do 350 divided by 25, it will tell you here it's 14. So we need to times by 14 to go from there. So you do the same thing with the other one, 40 times 14, and that gives us 560 kilometers is equal to 350 miles. So underneath 350 miles here, I'm going to write down 560 kilometers. So if I know this whole distance is 560, I can then do 560 take away 240. Okay, so 560 take away 240, and that gives me 320. So that must be the remaining distance. So that goes there, because the total distance was 350. So that's how many kilometers left. So I've worked that out, Dover to Sheffield. That's all from this line here, really. Okay. Tick that off. She goes to ferry Dover. She now has driven from Dover to Sheffield. Yeah, she now has to drive. Mary has enough petrol to drive 180 miles. Will Mary have to stop for petrol on the way to Sheffield? Now remember, she's already at Calais, so we want to figure out if 320 miles, what that is. 320 kilometers, what that is in miles, because she's only got enough petrol for 180 miles. So we can convert that kilometers to miles, or you can convert this 180 miles to kilometers. I'll go and do that. How do I convert? Well, start from my same starting point again. 40 kilometers is equal to 25 miles. So I want to get to 180 miles. Again, do 180 divided by 25, and that tells us that we have to times by 7.2 here. Do the same there, and that gives me 288 kilometers. So she's got enough petrol for 288 kilometers. How much do we have to travel? 320 kilometers. Does she have enough petrol? No, not enough petrol. Okay, so that's the answer to that.